Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Kim Vasquez, and today I'm going to be bringing you a video about some of the pros, cons, and fixes I have run into while homeschooling. Alright guys, so I have been homeschooling both my kids, my daughter for 6 months, my son for 5 months, and there's been so much that I have learned and so much that I've taken away, and I have friends all the time stop and ask me questions about how's everything going and what curriculum I use and things like that, and what's my schedule, how do I do it, and things like that. So today I am gonna kind of just touch bases on it really lightly. If it's something that you want to know a little bit more, if I didn't address something in this video, just please comment down below, and I have no problem trying to go ahead and address that question for you if it pertains to me. The first thing I'm gonna say about curriculum, every time someone asks me about curriculum, in Texas you can homeschool. It's really lenient, relaxed laws compared to other schools that I've read and looked into, or not schools, other states, sorry, that I've read and looked into. Texas has the most lenient laws. You just have to have a bona fide curriculum. I don't go and parade and say what curriculum I'm using, just because of the fact that every child learns differently. What works for my child may not work for your child, and so it's something that, and you'll see and hear a lot of YouTubers or homeschool parents say, you just got to try it out, and that's the honest truth, because like I said, every child learns differently, and so what might work for my child won't work for another child. I mean, I see it all the time in my own home setting with my son and my daughter. What works really well for my son doesn't necessarily always work for my daughter, and vice versa. So you are going to have to try out a lot of curriculums, and you might have to make some changes and adjustments. It does get kind of expensive. My solution for that is sometimes you can find inexpensive curriculums, if you've been able to go to a homeschool store and physically been able to look through the curriculum and maybe read up on it and stuff like that. Sometimes you can find them for a lesser price on Amazon.com. I also have a homeschool store not too far from me that has used homeschool books, and so sometimes they'll have little marks in them. Sometimes they look practically brand new. Maybe it was just a curriculum that someone started out with that once they got into it, they were like, no, this isn't gonna work for me. So that is my solution for things that get pretty expensive when you're homeschooling. The other thing is time. You have to look at your schedule and see if what you're doing and how you live your life and what's important to you, if that's gonna somehow fit into the whole homeschool schedule and structure. Because yes, homeschool is really flexible. You can make your own hours that suit you and your family, but you have to, at the end of the day, have the time, which is something that we really struggle with here, because I'm a full-time student, and then I do homeschool with my kids, and I have 2 of them. One's 8 and the other one's 13. So their learning levels are totally separate. So it's switching your gears from college work to junior high work to elementary work. So it can get pretty intense, mind, it can really weigh on the mind. And sometimes I find that my brain is just spent. And so just figuring out a schedule that works, and also being flexible with that schedule, and understand that things aren't always going to go as planned, and what might have worked last week and it was we figured out the key formula may not work this week. So just be able to roll with it and roll with it, and just kind of, there's been times where we have gone through curriculum and we've gone through it so fast, and I'm like, this is amazing, I could do this forever. And then there's times where it's literally dragging our feet in quicksand, trying to get through one lesson in a span of 1 or 2 days, and it's just you feel bogged down. And my suggestion to you when that happens is, it's okay to move on. I'm not saying move on and to just ignore that that lesson never happened, but I'm saying move on and then find another time to come back to it. Maybe when your mind is less stressed and you've been able to see maybe the next step of that element. And sometimes when you see the all parts of the step of that element, like I'm talking about basically with math and science and stuff, sometimes you might have been missing this step because you didn't see what was ahead. And sometimes if you see the whole thing together, then you're like, oh, okay, now remember what happened on that lesson, the very first lesson that we didn't get? This is how it ties in, and they're able to grasp it. Some other things that I want to touch on is we get to be home with our kids all the time. Isn't that amazing? The con to that is we get to be with our kids all the time. I'm gonna be completely honest, it can be so hard to be with your kids all the time, 24/7. And just as much as they might be driving you crazy, better believe that you are driving them crazy. So my solution to that is have someone you can confide in. I have a really good friend of mine who's been homeschooling for a really long time, and sometimes I can just send her a quick text and be like, the struggle, or this is killing me. And she just, we don't stop what we're doing in the day and call each other up, but she'll just send me like a word of encouragement that just makes me feel like, yes, I can do this. So that's just like a quick fix, and sometimes it doesn't always work. The other solution I have is making sure you guys take breaks from each other. This means letting your kids go play with the neighbors' kids or their friends, having play dates that you're not involved in. You know, send them to their grandmas, send them to their friends, send them somewhere safe, but away from you. Which sometimes when you've had it, your limit up to here, the safest place is away from you. But I also have a really great support system that when I am feeling completely overwhelmed with school and homeschooling and just I've hit a wall, it's weird because like literally my husband can walk into the door and look at me and he's like, how's your day? And I can be like, fine, which usually it's not like that. It's usually like, fine. And then like, I don't know if I have this look of like, OMG, but I'll tell him like, I'm gonna go finish up this paper. I'll be right back, and like, give me like an hour or something like that. Then I come downstairs, he's got dinner ready, the kids are eating, and he's just kind of like there for me. And it's nice to have that support system that I don't really have to say anything. There are times where I do say something, but for the most part, I guess because we've been together for so long, we can read off of each other. Letting your partner know that this isn't easy, and if they can just kind of, you know, help you out, get the kids out of the house for a little bit, or just letting you have alone time in your room. And sometimes I know that that is not always feasible. The other thing that we do is that, you know what, school is done, it's quiet time, we just need some quiet time. So my kids have their own rooms, we'll have quiet time where they can just go off into their own rooms. That way it gives them a break from themselves, from each other, because oh my goodness, they are best friends, but they will be at each other's neck because they're with each other all the time. And so that is my solution with being with your kids all the time. It is amazing, but it can be wearing. And so I think it's really important that as mothers or as homeschoolers that we make sure we get that break from our kids for our sanity and for their sanity. The thing I want to touch on that I kind of touched on just a second ago was about curriculum and it getting expensive. It can be very, very expensive. There's the curriculum. If you having struggles with the curriculum, then getting a tutor, that is another expense. Sometimes, like I know for us, our college, one of the community colleges down the road, they actually do free tutoring for high school and junior high students. I don't think they do elementary, but I know they do junior high and high school students. And so that is something that maybe you might want to look into to see if your community offers any type of tutoring that might be for free. When I can't utilize that, I also have some really great friends that have just been really awesome about helping me out. So that's another tip I will give you is, you know, reach out. Maybe you have a friend that's really good at something, or, you know, there might be a neighborhood kid who's in high school and is really like a math genius or a science genius. And sometimes I find that when they have someone that is around their age or someone younger, someone not mom, trying to teach them something or trying to teach them something, they kind of grasp it a little bit better because they're having fun. They don't feel like they're in this learning environment. And your kids, at the end of the day, if you feel like, did I teach them everything they need to know? Are they going to understand? Did they retain everything that I taught them? I'm going to tell you a simple fact. Even if they were in public school, they would not retain 100% of the lesson 100% of the time. There are times where the teachers have to just move on as much as they may not want to. They have to move on because they have a schedule that they have to keep up with. And your child is not going to get everything, and they're not going to understand everything 100%. And some kids are really great at one subject and really not so great in another subject, and that is fine. And so something I always have to tell myself and remind myself is that, you know what, this is just not their strong subject. Eventually, hopefully, because they have this one-on-one time with me, and I'm able to give them that one-on-one time that they need, and I'm able to slow down the lesson as they need, then hopefully eventually that light bulb will turn on. But I can tell you right now that even as adults, there are some subjects that we're really great and really strong at, and we can just get it done, and there are some subjects in life that we struggle with, and that's just a natural fact. So don't get too hung up if your child is not getting everything, 100% of everything. Another great thing about homeschooling is like the flexibility. I could choose to take spring break when everybody else is taking spring break, or I can choose, you know what, we're not going to take spring break when everybody else has spring break, so we can get either discounts on vacation or discounts on hotels, or maybe we can go somewhere that's less crowded. The other thing I really like is if we are done with our work, if we are done with our work early that week, you know, I could either choose to go ahead and move ahead, or I can just say, you know what, enjoy that time. You worked really hard, and now let's reap the rewards of working really hard and getting everything done. And let's go to the zoos on a Thursday, or let's go to the zoos. Let's go to the zoo on a Thursday. Let's go to the museum on a Thursday, or let's go here on a Wednesday. And there's not the crowds and stuff like that. So that's also really cool about homeschooling, and also being able to take vacation when it's not like that heavy vacation time. I will tell you, I thought I would have more time to do more things with the kids, but with my school schedule, it just kind of prevents us from being able to do as much as I would like to do, or as much as I hoped we would do. We're still doing a lot, we're just not up to my expectations. Another thing I love about homeschooling is when my kids were in public school, there was like this sense of urgency every morning to get out the door, and the sense of urgency every moment, or from the moment they got into that, or from the moment they walked in the door from school. And it was making sure their homework was done, making sure folders were signed, making sure they read for 30 minutes, making sure I was making dinner, making sure that they were taking a bath, making sure that they, did I say read for 30 minutes? But making sure all these things happened, and making sure that their clothes were laid out for the next day, just so the next morning we could just jump right back on that hamster wheel and just go, 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 go. And while I was home during the day by myself, and I had my things that I needed to do, which I do miss having that alone time, but it was like as soon as I picked up the kids, and as soon as we woke up in the morning, it was like a rat race to hurry up and get where we needed to get, and making sure that things were put away or things were laid out so that we can get out the door faster and not be late. And so I definitely don't miss that about my children being in public school. I like that some mornings where we are really quick to get started with our day, and then there's some where we kind of take our time. And so that's just one of the luxuries that I have with homeschooling. One of the big topics that comes up all the time, and I'm sure every homeschool mom has heard, is how do we socialize our children? So to that, I don't know who I was watching or what YouTuber I was watching. She said, you don't socialize children, you socialize dogs. So we teach our kids how to communicate. And so that's exactly what I do. I teach my kids how to communicate. And to be honest, their communication skills have grown tremendously because they are out in the world a lot more. So they have to be able to communicate with the librarian, the guy at Subway, the grocery store guy. Sometimes we'll go just anywhere out in the public, to the museums and stuff like that. They have to communicate with people, adults, children, the elderly. So really, we're just teaching them how to communicate and how to be good citizens. And I feel like homeschooling for my son has really helped him to be a better communicator, because he's been able to open up so much more. And I know there's people that say, oh, they're gonna be weird, the kids are gonna be weird because they're not getting socialized and they're not able to hang out with kids their own age and they're not able to do the blah, 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 and this and that. So to be honest, I'm just gonna give you an example. I have my 2 children. My daughter Mia is like a social butterfly. She is just like me and she can make a conversation with the wall. And she can be friends with everybody is her best friend. And then I have my son, who is just a little bit more reserved. He's very quiet and he's very smart, and he kind of keeps to himself. He won't strike up a conversation with you unless you strike it up with him, and even then sometimes he's just kind of quiet. So my son has been in public school from the time he was 5 years old until he was 13 years old, and he's just really quiet. My daughter, she's been in public school from the time she was 5 years old to the time she was 8. And she is just, like I said, just the loudest thing ever. Her nickname when she was younger used to be like the Screamer because she was just so loud. So it all has to do with that child's personality. If that child is a quiet child, like, that's okay. That's who they are. And if that child is just really loud and social, that's okay too. I try to make sure that I have things that they can go to make sure that they are able to communicate with kids their age and just kind of be kids. But they're also put in situations where they're having to communicate with adults and learning how to speak their mind in a respectful way and speak up. I really wanted to make this a quick, short video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that you feel free to comment down below if there was something that I missed that you maybe want me to talk about a little bit more or touch on enough that you would like to know more about, and maybe I can make a video about it. Also, if you are a homeschool mom and you do YouTube and you have a channel, you know, put your link down below. This is supposed to be a community where moms and homeschool moms and people who are maybe thinking about homeschooling can use this as a resource and a platform to kind of get better connected with the community and see what other resources are out there. Because like I said, I've only been doing this for 6 months, and I know there's people out there who've been doing it much longer and probably have way better advice than I do. But these were some of the situations that I have found in my 6 months of homeschooling, and so I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.